PokerStatic.com. We bring you the interviews you want to hear. Now with your hosts, Bret Oliverio and Eric Bickel, the Poker Static Hot Seat.
What's up? You're watching the Poker Static Hot Seat. Bret Oliverio with Eric Bickel. Joining us now, Eric Berger. He plays under the screen name Booge Todd on PokerStars, Twan Baby on Full Tilt, and he posts on 2+2 under G Dollars. And what's interesting about sort of your Twan Baby nickname or your screen name on Full Tilt, it's named after Antoine Walker, and from all reports, he's Busto, which means you're obviously not. I mean, you drive an Aston Martin. You got way more money than Antoine Walker does.
Yeah, at the moment I very well may. I mean, the screen name, I made that before he went busto, back when he was still in the NBA, and pretty much he just became my favorite player, more so because everybody else hated him and his game was so ugly, and I just, I just became a fan and put the screen name up. So.
Yeah, let's talk about that, because basketball is a big part of your story, and you played Division I basketball at one
D2.
point.
I played Division II basketball.
Division II, okay.
Yep.
And I mean, that's a big deal. Talk about poker and basketball, how that stuff. I mean, obviously you started playing basketball at a young age. When did poker come into play for you?
Well, poker became basically what I did as my job after school. Like, I started it at the end of my college career, but basketball I grew up with. I've been playing basketball since I was about 5 years old, as long as I can remember. And basically, the reason I got my start in poker actually was because the school I finished at playing basketball, a school called Lees McRae. It's in North Carolina, the very northwest corner of North Carolina.
Okay.
And it's in a small town. There's really not a whole lot to do there, and that's where I finished my last 2 years. So after practice or after games, because there wasn't anything else to do, I would basically just go back up to my room and I'd start playing cards. And I did that for probably the last year that I was still in school. And that's where I got my start with poker. I started playing online there. And after school, I was like, all right, I'm just going to take 6 months and see how this goes. And that was about 5 years ago.
Wow. Wow, so you really didn't start until kind of the last year or two of your college career. Were you a kid that killed it in high school, like academically too?
Well, in college I actually made academic all-conference when I was at Lees McRae. I mean, I basically because I went to 3 schools in college. I went to Florida to start, and I tried to walk on there for basketball,
right.
And then that didn't work out, so I eventually transferred to Florida Southern to play, and then finished up at Lees McRae. And I had pretty much the same GPA at all my schools, same in high school. I always did enough to just maintain about a 3.5. I was never a 4.0 student, but I never really necessarily put in the effort to be a 4.0 student either.
Right.
So.
I can relate to that, believe me. I called it doing the minimum.
Yeah.
Are you one of those guys that killed it on the math portion of the SATs?
Yeah, I did. Define killed it. I'm sure a lot of the poker players did also. I mean, I got a 700 on my math part of my SATs.
I consider that killing it.
Yeah.
I don't know. What about you,
yeah,
Bret?
Me too.
Considering
that I certainly do.
That's pretty close to my combined score. Right.
Hey, what happened at Florida? So was Billy Donovan there? You wanted to walk on there, or
yeah. I was in touch with him and a couple of the assistants, and I tried to walk on there. I actually I was playing in a bunch of the invitation only pickup games with the team and whatnot, and basically things didn't really work out. But they eventually got me in touch with some of the coaches at Florida Southern, and I ended up going there for a workout, and I ended up being able to make the team there.
How big a guy are you?
I'm not that big, 5'11", about 185.
Oh my God, that's pretty sick. Pretty sick to be able to carve out a college basketball career that way. All right,
yeah.
So let's talk about when you first got your start in poker. Well, what games did you play? Did you start out with the sit and goes? How did that evolution become?
When I very, very first started, I'm talking maybe my first 2 or 3 weeks, I probably played sit and goes. I really don't remember a whole lot from the sit and goes. One of my friends convinced me to start playing fixed limit hold'em. And I did that for a while. You know, I started just like everyone else. I started probably with the 50 cent a dollar or the $1, $2. And looking back on it now, I guess I ran really well because inside of 6 months, I was up to playing 30-60, which for a point was the highest they had back on Party Poker. And then I was playing 50, 100, and 100, 200 on their fixed limit.
Wow. So did you use any of the training sites? Like to develop your skill, or was it simply 2+2?
Yeah, I mean, back then I don't really think any of the training sites were around. I mean, I don't remember exactly when Card Runners got its start. This was back when Party Poker was still available to U.S. players, and I'm trying to think, but I think 2+2 was the only thing that was really available back then in terms of poker strat advice. I don't think there were really any other options.
Now, what sort of style did you have when you first started playing? Because it just seemed like you jumped into the games and were like, let me try this out. What style came natural to you at the poker table?
Well, I mean, basically, when I first started out, I honestly wasn't even really that good at poker. All I did was I played really tight pre-flop, and I played full ring, fixed limit, and I just mashed the raise button post-flop, and I guess people didn't really adjust very well, didn't know how to. I mean, nobody was really good back then, outside of, the really, really top guys. And it just worked out for me.
Huh. And then, I mean, just to give this some context, I don't want to jump the gun on this interview, but for people that are just kind of tuning in, I mean, this guy's made over $1 million. This guy's made 7 figures playing basically low-limit poker. I mean, I think I've checked out your numbers on Poker Table Ratings, and at this point, I mean, they've got you logged in somewhere around 600,000 hands at 2-4. So it's not like you've made the bulk of your money in the high-stakes games. You're a guy that's grinded these low-stakes games and made all this money. In fact, you made a lot of money in fixed limit before you made the transition to no limit. Is that correct?
Yeah, I did. I made, trying to think, I made a bunch, easily over 6 figures playing fixed limit back before I made the transition to no limit. The reason I actually made the transition, it was funny, I had a huge month playing fixed limit, playing mostly 30-60 with a little bit of 50-100 and 100-200 fixed limit, and I made, I think, $65,000 one month, and that was the biggest month I had. And the next month started, and in the first 2 days of that month, I dropped 50 grand. So I dropped, $50K in 48 hours, and I was like, all right, it's time to learn a game with less variance and move to no limit. So that was where I got my start at no limit from there.
Right, and then, okay, so then you jump into no limit, and then what limits did you jump into there?
I just jumped straight into, I think I might have played 1-2 for a couple of weeks, and until I understood, the basic differences between limit and no limit. And then after that, I just jumped into 2-4, and I basically kept getting better at a rate where I never had to drop down when the games got tougher, and I just never really felt the need to kill myself to try and move up from there.
Now, was it one of those things where you jumped into the 2-4 no limit game and you had immediate success, or did you have a couple struggling months where you had to study and put some work in to get better?
I never really had any months, at least at the beginning, where I struggled with it. I mean, like I said, the games back then, they weren't really very tough at all. I mean, there were so many fish. This is, back in the golden days on Party. There were so many fish. As long as you had a decent pre-flop game and you weren't just completely spewing money all over the place post-flop, you were going to be able to make money. And I mean, at that time, I probably jumped right into 2-4 and 3-6 on Party and was running at, six poker tracker big bets per 100.
And then when did you notice that the games really started to tighten up? Is that after the legislation passed and Party Poker?
I mean, that was the biggest that was the biggest time when there was a noticeable difference from, basically 1 month to the next was when legislation passed, and the games did start to tighten up at that point. But it's been gradual since then. I mean, it's, if you look at the difference between the games now and the games when legislation just passed, there's a huge difference, but there hasn't been, a specific point where they just, fell off a cliff. It's just been gradually getting tougher since then.
And then how have you adjusted your game? Are you playing mostly full ring now? I think you're playing mostly six-handed, aren't you?
Yeah, I'm playing mostly six-handed still. Um, I've adjusted my game. Well, originally I used to play even post legislation. I played 16 tables, and I played relatively tag, pretty tight pre-flop, and I've had to drop the number of tables, and I've been experimenting a bunch recently, which has been going really well. Playing a lag style, playing up over 30 VPIP, and that's going real well this year. But I've dropped to about six or eight tables from my original 16, which then became 12, and now it's become 6 or 8. But that's pretty much the biggest difference. You can't play as many tables. You have to concentrate and focus more. But I mean, my game, it's not. I don't really remember what it was back then, and of course it's better. But I don't think there's huge differences besides just paying attention more and clearly I guess playing lag now this year.
Right. And so is that something that you're doing like on a consistent basis, or are you just playing that lag style to just kind of change gears?
No, I've actually I've always wanted to play lag, but at the time I was making so much money playing so many tables playing tag that it didn't really make much sense. And then this year I was like, you know what, I'm just gonna drop tables and give it a try and see how it goes. And it's gone really well so far this year.
And then
Now, why make the move to 6 max? Why not just? I mean, it seems like you're printing money full ring.
Well, actually,
why
when
move to 6 max?
full ring, I played full ring back when I was playing fixed limit, and I'm sorry I didn't clarify. When I did jump to no limit, I did play 6 max because my friend who got me into that's what he played at the time. So when I did play no limit, I jumped straight into the 6 max no limit.
Now, were you
Gotcha.
more of a sort of? I mean, you say you were tag when you were playing 16 tables. Give me your stats. When
Back
you were
then, I was probably 1916 to maybe 2117. I mean, those were probably my stats back then.
Wow.
Whereas this year I'm playing like 3126 or 3226, something like that.
That's insane. And has that been an easy transition for you? Obviously, you're having success with it, but I mean. Is that something like for me? I'm just sort of a nit by nature. It would be hard to open up my game. I've tried. It's hard to do that.
Yeah. For me, it's honestly, even though I've played tag for the last 5 years prior to this, I'm probably more of a natural lag. Like I prefer to play looser. It was just because I was playing so many tables, it didn't really make sense. But it's been a relatively easy transition for me. I haven't had any problem with it.
Do you notice that? I mean. I've had periods where I've just given up on playing the cash games because for a guy like me that's obviously not as bright as someone like you or maybe doesn't have the time to put in that a full-time player does, I find it really, really hard to just sort of play a basic tag style that used to work 2 or 3 years ago. I find that you have to float more, you have to double and triple barrel more, you really have to think more. Are those concepts that, I mean, do you agree with that in general?
Yeah, I mean, it's kind of hard to classify poker in a generalization, but yeah, you definitely have to think more than you did 2 or 3 years ago in order to grind out a living at it. It's not, it's no longer an easy. Oh, you can just sit down and autopilot your way through to 3 or 4 poker tracker big bets per 100. You can't do that anymore. You got to actually think now.
Right.
All right, now we're going to get into, like, all the stuff you've bought. I guess you bought your mom a house, you bought an Aston Martin, but I still see on 2+2, just a month or two ago, you're posting hands and analyzing, a river shove. You're still breaking down hands and sort of going old school. That's not beneath you after you've made over $1 million.
I mean, I don't post as much as I used to, but I'll definitely throw a couple hands in there every now and then. I recently just in the last week or two just posted a hand where I made a guy shoved over my flop c-bet, and I ended up calling him with 10 high. The board was ace 6 7, or no, excuse me, the board was ace 4 5. And I c-bet in a 3-bet pot, and he shoved, and I called with 10-8, and he ended up having 6-7 for the open-end straight draw, but he got there and it didn't hold. But that got a lot of responses on 2+2.
Wow.
What was your thinking there? Sort of walk us through that hand, if you don't mind.
Well, I mean, basically, I was in the blinds, and there was a limper. The razor isolated the limper. He was on the button, and I 3-bet from the blind 10-8 suited, and the limper cold called the 3-bet, and the razor called, and the flop comes ace 4 5, and I c-bet like 1/3 or 1/4 pot. Just my thought process at the time was just to try and take it down there. and the fish folded. And then the reg, he thought for about 1 second, and he went ahead and shoved. And basically, my thought process was he's never got ace king, because after the fish flats the 3-bet, he's going to go ahead and shove that pre. And because of the timing, I thought had he thought about it a little more, he might have shoved an ace there, trying to rep 6-7 or something like that. But after thinking for 1 second, I just didn't really see any ace that he was shoving there for value, because he didn't think long enough to think about what I would call with. And because I had c-bet so small, like 1/4 of the pot, it didn't really seem like there was any aces in his range the way he played the hand, and the way the way his timing ended up coming off. So I called with 10-8, and he had 6-7, but he turned an 8 to give him the straight.
Wow.
So.
Wow, so sick.
It is sick. What about king queen? Weren't you worried about king queen of diamonds or a hand like that?
I would have been highly upset, but I mean the flop was rainbow, and I just didn't see him, just based on his timing and the reads I had on him, which I'm not going to go into. I didn't really see any aces in his range, and I just put him on the open end, and that's what he had. But what are you going to do? Can't win them all.
Right. So
Sick.
when he wins that pot and he hits it, do you like smash your mouse, or you just kind of roll your eyes, or
just move on to the next hand? There's none of that smashing the mouse or smashing the keyboard at this point. I've been in it 5, 6, 7 years by now, so I'm used to all that.
Right. What's the biggest downswing that you've had to endure? I mean, obviously that 2-day swing there, where you're playing fixed limit and you lose $50K, that hurts.
Yeah, that was the biggest. But since I've been playing no limit, I'm trying to think. I mean, I've probably had some bigger swings than most people that play mid stakes. Like I've had a minus 10K day playing 2-4, which was pretty ridiculous.
Right.
But other than that, I haven't had any huge swings playing no limit, because I don't really go above 3-6 very often. And I mean, if I do, it's not for an extended period of time.
Yeah,
so.
I want to talk about that. I mean, what's been your thinking behind that? Because I mean, you're killing the games, you're doing so well, you made over 7 figures playing low limit. Why not just go? I mean, we had Carrot Snake on. He's another guy kind of with the same mentality. He would just rather grind these lower stakes games and make the consistent money with a lot less variance. But then you have other guys that take those jumps and take those stabs at the bigger games, and they make it too. And then now they're superstars.
Yeah, they are. I've played with a bunch of them. I've seen them coming up. Like I played with CTS back when he was at mid stakes. I played with A.E. Jones back when he was at mid stakes, and same with King of Cards, who's more recent than those two. But some guys do make it, and maybe one day I will make that jump. But at this point, I've always been, at least in poker, one of the guys who's like, I'd rather maximize my short-term EV than potentially maximize my long-term EV, which is definitely not guaranteed by any means. And it's like you do hear about like guys like the 3 I just mentioned that do make it, but then there's tons and tons and tons of guys that I know about who it's like they'll go and say they'll make 40K at 2-4, and then they'll go lose 30K at 5-10, and rinse and repeat and just do the same thing over and over again. So eventually one day when I'm financially to the point where I really want to be, then I'll start taking jumps at 5-10 and 10-20, and stay up there for a while and see if I can't beat those games.
Now, why aren't you out at the World Series? I mean, everything's going on in Vegas. Even if you don't want to play any of the tournaments, why not play the cash games?
Yeah,
but you're in
I mean,
Florida
I don't know.
with the
I probably
game.
should, but live poker, it's never really been my thing. I mean, I lived out in Vegas for a year, and I lived walking distance from the Strip, and I still didn't even make it to any of the World Series events, and I probably put in, maybe 20 hours of live cash play that, the whole time I lived out there. It's just, it's not really for me. I mean, I might do it a little bit here and there, but it's not worth for me flying all the way out there. Maybe next year or something, but not right now.
I see that you've dabbled some in PLO.
No, not really.
Actually, you know what it is? I'm sorry. I wrote down heads up, and then I wanted to ask you. I see you have dabbled in heads up. What about PLO? Because everybody seems to be making that transition. I'm sorry.
Yeah, I mean, it's funny. I've actually played probably like one orbit of serious PLO. This is when one of my friends convinced me that I should play it, and I knew nothing about the game. I didn't even know what good starting hands were, nothing. And he was like, "We'll just play it like it's no limit hold'em." So I was like, "All right, I'll play it like it's no limit hold'em." So I post my blinds or whatever, and then like third or fourth hand, I think I was on the button or in the cutoff, and a guy opens, and I have like 10-10 forward deuce double suited, and if somebody opens and I decide to 3-bet it because my friend told me, "Oh, play it like it's hold'em," so I see pocket tens, I'm like, "Oh, time to 3-bet." So I end up flopping top set after the guy flats, and I somehow get it in, and I'm a dog with top set, but I end up holding, and my friend's just like, "You know what, just stick to no limit." So that's pretty much the last time I played PLO.
That's hilarious. Why not more heads-up play, though? I mean, I've seen you've logged some, 20,000 hands at, I think, 2-4 or something. You definitely played some heads-up.
Yeah, I have. It's the heads-up games. There aren't not that much action in them, and sometimes it's basically the same reason why I play 2-4, because I don't want to play against really, really, really good players that are better than I am. So basically, when I'm playing heads-up, pretty much the only people that'll play me are people that are better than I am. So it's not really, not really what I'm looking for. I mean, I do play some. I play some, but 6-max is basically my main game.
Let's talk about when you bought the Aston Martin. How did that come about? Why did you decide to go ahead and spoil yourself?
Basically, since I was a kid, for some reason, my goal was always to drive a Bentley by the time I was 25. And I went to go get that, and the Bentley, like the new ones at the time were 200, which was a little bit more than I wanted to spend on it, and the used ones were about 130 or something that I would have gotten, but the warranty on the used Bentleys was basically non-existent. It was something like 3 years or like 10,000 miles, so it's not something you could use for your everyday car. So the Aston Martin, the warranty was, so I decided to go ahead and get that instead.
Now, did you have difficulty with that? I know that you tried to buy your mother a house later on with your poker money, and that didn't work out because poker players don't have that steady earn history that they like to see.
Yeah, I bought our condo actually, and it's funny what happened was my plan was to put down 2/3 of the price of the house, and I was going to take out mortgage on the last 1/3 of it. And everything was fine. I was set up, and then 5 p.m. the day before the closing, the mortgage broker calls me up, and he's like, "Yeah, we apologize, and we're not going to be able to get the mortgage for you." And because at the time I was 20, I think I was 23 at the time, and I was so young, and they didn't look at poker as a steady means of income, so that kind of got screwed. But I had to end up paying cash for the house, and if I didn't have it, I'd have been screwed out of whatever the deposit was, 20, 30K. I don't remember what it was, but yeah.
Wow. And then what about for the Aston Martin? Same thing? You had to pay all cash?
No, the Aston Martin, because I had already bought the house. My credit was to the point where I don't get me wrong, I put down well over half on the Aston, but I could get I could get the loan for the last part of it.
What are your friends thinking when you're driving around in an Aston Martin and you're buying your mom a condo?
I mean, it's they don't really say a whole lot about it one way or the other. It's funny because I'm 27 now, and it's like the group of friends that I'm really good friends with, and there's probably 10 or 12 of us. We've all been friends for over 20 years, so it's like I've known them since I was a kid. So it's not like oh, I'm gonna lose them as friends because I'm I'm driving this car, or bought my mom a house, or this, that, or the other.
Gotcha.
Now, Eric, I got to ask you about your basketball. I mean, we got to let you go in a few minutes because you have a game coming up, and it says here in my research that you play in a summer league, or you have played in a summer league with like Tim Hardaway and other former and current players.
Yeah, it's a real competitive summer league. Tim Hardaway's got a team that plays in it every season, and his son actually plays on his team. His son's going to Michigan in the fall. He's going to be good. And he's got a couple other NBA guys. Like a team we played last night actually has got Carlos Arroyo and another guy, Yakuba Diawara, who's the 12th man for the Heat. And this is a pretty good league, pretty competitive league.
Hold on, hang on. Can you repeat that answer just because you cut out for a second? Sorry.
Yeah, I was saying the league I play in, Tim Hardaway's got a team that plays in it every season, and his son, who's actually going to play at Michigan, he's going to be a freshman in the fall, plays in it every season, and it's a real competitive league. Got a bunch of NBA guys. Like the team I played last night in that league actually has two NBA guys in it. Carlos Arroyo plays for them, and so does another guy by the name of Yakuba Diawara, who's the 12th man for the Heat. So it's a real competitive league. It's fun.
Wow. You got a girlfriend?
I do.
Nice. Does she spend all your money?
No, she doesn't spend all of it.
That's hilarious. That's hilarious. You teach her poker? Your friends? You teach them poker or what? You do any coaching?
No, I'm actually getting into a little bit of coaching. That's actually one of the reasons I decided to start playing lag. Is once I get a significant amount of hands, I'm going to post that graph in one of the coaching threads or whatnot and try and pick up students. Just because I feel like there's so many people out there now that are coaching a tag style that coaching lag, there's going to be more of a demand for it.
Right.
What about any of the coaching sites? Are they after you?
No, I mean I haven't really. I wouldn't make videos for them, and they haven't really asked me about it anyways. So
why do you rule that out?
Well, it's just like it's not, in my opinion at least, it's not worth whatever they're going to pay me to sit there and have a video where I'm going through all my thought process with the number of hands I've put in. So I've got to sit there and wonder about if my opponents have seen my video, etc., etc.
You don't want to give up your trade secrets.
Yeah, not for that amount of money anyways.
Right.
So.
Right. Well, it makes all the sense in the world. Well, listen, I want to be respectful to you. You got your game. You came on sort of last-second notice. I'm very frustrated, though, because we were having audio difficulties. So I don't know. Hopefully this is worth listening to. You gave us some great information. It's just that the audio was crapping out throughout. I really appreciate your time.
I think it was good. I think it was good.
All right. It's tilting me.
All right. Well, I mean, hopefully it'll end up being all right.
Yeah. If not, we may call you back. Don't hang up on us.
All right.
Thank you, Eric. I appreciate it.
All right. Thanks, guys.
All right.
All right. See you, buddy.
All right.
That was Eric Berger. Sick poker player, man. 7 figures, Aston Martin, bought his mama condo, played college basketball.
I'm pretty sure.
And
Go ahead.
He's grinding out a living playing 2-4, no limit, 6 max. So, pretty friggin' impressive.
I'm pretty sure I've played more poker than him, and he's made millions more than me. Because I've made just like a few bucks. It just, it's mind-boggling. But for some of these guys, it just seems to come so easy. I mean, obviously he's put in the time, and he's a bright guy and everything else. But it's amazing the amount of money that guys can make just even grinding the lower stakes games. You don't have to be a nosebleed regular. You don't have to play 25-50.
No.
To buy your mom a condo and cruise around town in a fancy car. You really don't.
And you can play 2-5, 5-10, and be a millionaire.
Yeah.
And he's played with the best. He's played with A.E. Jones, CTS, and he's seen them come and go, but he stays there and he keeps killing it. And the guy, obviously, I mean, maybe one of the differences between you and him is he seems confident in every decision that he makes. I mean, the guy's, calling shoves with 10 high. I mean, he knows he's very confident in his game and what he's doing.
I mean, I'll just never do that my whole career. I'm just never going to do it. I wouldn't. I'm never going to call a shove with 10 high, ever. It's just never going to, unless he had $1 in his account.
Right. I'll call like a $9 in a home game river bet with ace high, and I'll feel like Phil Ivey. I'm not going to call like 400 with 10 high on the flop.
No, just not going to happen.
Sick.
So anyway, Eric Berger, everybody. What are his different screen names for people?
He plays under.
Do you have it in front of you?
Twan Baby on Full Tilt, Booge_Todd on PokerStars, and he's got like over 3,000 posts with G dollars, G_dollars with the Z on 2+2. So, there's not much out there outside of 2+2 on this guy, but it's safe to say he's playing basketball and printing money in his house.
Yeah, just one of those quiet killers. And again, you can't give a 5'11" guy enough respect. If you can play college basketball at 5'11", you're getting it done. So he's getting it done.
Yeah, oh yeah.
On the court and at the poker table. It's pretty sick.
All right, that was Eric Berger. Thanks for checking out the Poker Hot Seat. We will see you guys next week.
Peace.